Welcome back to week 7 of the Fantasy Football Touchback. I'm Megan, that's Chris, and we wanted to start off with a recap of week 6.
Yep, that's absolutely right. We're going to go ahead and go over our sleepers, our traps, and our locks, including the injuries and the bye weeks that we're going to be facing this week before we get into our matchup. So let's go ahead and do that.
Sounds good. Pick one of those and just go.
Yeah.
Sleepers last week. We had Trevor Lawrence, John Junkins, George Pickens, J.J. Barner, Ryan Fitzgerald, and the Las Vegas Raiders for our sleepers. The only one I'm seeing on that list that I really appreciated was George Pickens.
Yeah, George Pickens had an incredible game in Dallas. Actually, if you look at the overall points that these teams got for last week, the only one who really didn't show up was Q Junkins. They were held to, I think he was held to 4 points in most leagues, but everybody else did fairly well. Ryan Fitzgerald had multiple field goals. The Las Vegas Raiders played incredibly well against the Titans, and AJ Barner, a backup tight end for the Seattle Seahawks, had a better time over the starting tight ends. So looks like we did pretty well on that. Let's go ahead and check out the trap players. Kyler Murray, um,
Injured.
injured. Derrick Henry didn't have a
Should
bad
be injured.
week, but it was not one of his better weeks. Devontae Adams did not. As soon as Puka Nacua went out, they double teamed him and he didn't show up. Mason Taylor also did not highlight like he had been doing. Joey Sly kind of was subpar. I think he maybe got 4 points. So it's a kicker that's kind of that's on the low end from what you want. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they ended up giving up enough to make it a close game, but it was still one of those things where there was definitely not their best week. So I think we do pretty well for the first time in a while on the trap players. As for the locks, go.
Oh, Matthew Stafford is having a fantastic year. He just is. He keeps getting better week over week. A Shane is on those terrible Miami Dolphins. He's probably the best thing that's come out of Miami this week or this year so far. Puka Nacua,
He was having a
poor
good game.
Puka. He was having a fantastic game. Hopefully, he will continue to have fantastic games, but we don't know how significant his injury is. Do you want to talk about Trey McBride, Cameron
Yeah.
Dicker, and the Packers?
Well, I mean, Dicker he hit everything that he was supposed to. McBride did not get into the end zone this last week, but he did have opportunities, and that's what you want to see. So if he had received that touchdown, he would have had a nearly 18, 19 points in the game. So, and then the Packers showed up like they normally do. So I think this last week we hit more than we lost, and that's exactly what we want to do. But now it's
We're
time.
getting better at this too.
Yeah, absolutely. So now it's time for rest. But the only teams that are going to go into rest are two teams that absolutely need it: the Baltimore Ravens, who are just got to get themselves healthy. With Lamar Jackson being out, hopefully week 8 he'll be able to come back and start earning his stay on all these teams that drafted him really high. And then the Buffalo Bills are on a 2-game slide like the Philadelphia Eagles, but now they have a bye week to do some rest. When they come back, they have some suspended players coming back on defense. So, and their injuries are going to get healthier as well. So the Bills had a tough week last week, going into a bye week. It's probably came at a great time for them. But as we talk
Speaking
about,
of injuries,
yeah, exactly where I was going to go.
it's like we're siblings.
Yeah, and we've been doing this a long time. All right, I'm just going to talk about Anthony Richardson for a second because it's a freak accident. The man's a backup.
You like
The only reason why we're going to talk about Anthony Richardson right now is because for your dynasty leagues, I would let him go, or I'd see if you can trade him. If anybody wants to trade him for a late round pick, or maybe a second, third running back, wide receiver, somebody just to get something to fill in because he's not going to be doing anything for you. He hurt himself with the rubber band. And it sounds funny, but the big long elastic bands, and so it was an orbital fracture. He's done for the year. And
if not longer.
yeah, but that's just it. They have Daniel Jones now. I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to be helping anybody for at least a couple years. So just be wary if he is still on your dynasty league. What else you got, Meg?
We talked about Puka a little bit already. Amika, he's week to week this after I think it was a hamstring injury or a knee or something. Um, we don't anticipate him with what we're hearing that he's going to be back this week, but you never know. Same with Njoku, kind of day to day, practicing here and there, but not really doing a
Very
full
limited.
practice. Brock Bowers potentially is back this week. We'll see what goes on with that. I feel like all of our injuries are just a wait and see, with the exception of Puka. Or sorry,
Anthony
who was
Richardson.
I looking at? Yes. Everybody else is kind of, you know, just wait and see. They weren't really significant injuries, but we'll see what they end up doing depending on if they're traveling or if they're at home or whatever else.
The
We do
big
have a bunch of players that are coming off of injuries though, right, Chris?
we do. The
First and foremost, CeeDee Lamb is expected to be back this week. I really don't anticipate that he's going to be taking a lot of receptions, just enough to make sure that he can still juke like he used to. Mike Evans is also potentially going to be back this week. We've heard a little bit on the opposite as well, that they might retain him a little bit longer, but it just really depends on the latter half of this week and how they do um in practices. Chris, do you want to talk about the rest?
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall, he is coming along. They were hoping to get him back for week 7. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but he was limited on Tuesday. And so just keep an eye on him for the rest of the week. Make sure that you are paying attention to the comment section and to our X account, as we've talked about in the past. Rashid Rice is coming off his suspension in Kansas City, so expect him to get a lot of volume and enhancing Xavier Worthy's game. And then George Kittle, same kind of thing with Pearsall. He's practicing more, but this would be the first time that we'd see him. And for that, we're going to go ahead and get started on those matchups when we come back.
If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you.
All right, the matchups for week 7 starts off with a rivalry that is probably not going to be that good of a game, but it's still a rivalry nonetheless, between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. Aaron Rodgers versus Joe Flacco, the old man Super Bowl, as it were, for this Thursday. I do expect Joe Flacco to be more comfortable into this offense with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. We do, unfortunately, are down with the tight ends for the Cincinnati Bengals, since they just put Mike Gesicki on IR, as we had stated earlier. But Aaron Rodgers has a full complement of players except for Calvin Austin. So expect Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell to really just show off, since the Cincinnati defense is shambles. You have anything about this game that you want to talk about, Meg?
Thursday night has to get better. The last couple of games have just not been up to standard. So hopefully this game or games to come will be better, but nothing specifically.
Okay. Well, let's get started on the international game for Sunday.
Last international game, it seems. I feel like we've been in London or over the pond for a lot longer this year than in previous years, but good to see some international attention. We have the Rams and the Jaguars playing in Wembley Stadium on Sunday morning. Brian Thomas Jr. is becoming a real standout player for the Jags. Last week, he caught 100% of his targets, which is a far cry from the 25% the week before. Last week, the Rams caused 3 turnovers, but only one of them was an interception. So I expect Brian Thomas Jr. to do pretty similarly to the way he did last week, if not a little bit better. On the Rams side, Puka Nacua, a poor guy. He ended up returning to the game on last Sunday after his injury to what we think is his ankle, but he's still considered week to week. We're not hearing much as far as if he's going to play or not. You would think that if they were traveling to London, they should already be there, and they would have told us, but not really a lot to go on. If he doesn't play, definitely look to Devontae Adams to have touches in this game. But hopefully we hear sooner than later, and definitely keep up with our comments and the Twitter page so that we can give you the information as we know it. Like I said, the game is in London this week, so make sure that you have your week set, your players set the night before if you plan on sleeping in. So we don't want you guys to end up with a big goose egg because you ended up leaving somebody in that shouldn't have been. Anything to add, Chris?
That's perfect. Let's go ahead and get back to Chicago. Caleb Williams is starting to feel himself. People are starting to take notice that the Chicago Bears aren't your father's or grandfather's Chicago Bears. They're actually starting to have an offense, which is a far cry. Unfortunately, though, this week they are dealing with a lot of injuries. So DJ Moore is day to day. They are calling him questionable. Colston Loveland also coming in questionable, and then Cairo Santos is coming in questionable as well. So if you have either of those players, Luther Burden III would be his replacement for DJ Moore. You have Cole Kmet, who's been really stepping in. They're kind of splitting time when one is injured, when the other one is out. And then Jake Moody, the former San Francisco 49ers kicker, is in place of Cairo until. But you also have the other side, which is the Saints and Spencer Rattler, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. The one thing that we're hearing about the Saints, yeah, they're scrappy, but the other thing is a lot of people are seeing who's up for trade on the Saints. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple weeks, the Saints offense is not going to have some of these key players that they've been having. But I honestly, I think that you go running back and Caleb Williams, that would be, and Rome Odunze for Chicago here. Spencer Rattler will probably throw an interception, but Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara are the absolute starters here, since Juwan Johnson has fallen off. But that's all I got. Want to go to Cleveland?
Yeah, you spoke a lot more about that game than I expected you to.
I did talk about something.
Well, if you don't have something to talk about, you'll find something. Anyway, Miami is at Cleveland this week. This is a battle of 1 and 5 teams. On the Dolphin side, it's not getting any better. The team is lacking cohesiveness. At first, it was the coach just blaming everybody on the team for being terrible human beings, and now Tua is calling out players for not showing up to team or player meetings. So I just really expect that Miami is showing up at the game like they're showing up for the team. They just don't want to be there, and I don't expect them to do much on top of that. On the Brown side, I haven't seen enough from Dylan Gabriel to really get on the train with him. Maybe eventually, maybe when he gets a little bit more underneath his feet, but he's suffering, and David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy are also suffering. Both of those players usually do fabulously, but we're just not seeing much. Also, Njoku injured his knee during last week's game. We haven't seen any updates if he's going to play or if it was really that serious, but definitely keep up with that to make sure that you know when we know if he's going to be sat or not. That's all I have for the Dolphins and the Browns, Chris. You want to talk about Raiders and Chiefs?
Absolutely. Thank you for getting off of this team so fast.
I'm good at that.
Chiefs versus Raiders. I would love to call it a blowout, but the Raiders don't ever let the Chiefs blow. That's unfortunately how it is. So I expect the Raiders defense to show up big in this game. But also, the Chiefs are ready to have Rashee Rice back. He is coming off a suspension. This is the first week that he's been available. So Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, all three of them should have a really good game, and that should open up Travis Kelce right down under. Just I don't expect him to get as many targets, but probably more red zone work. So just be weary of that. Ashton Genty, they're going to try to run the ball against this Chiefs defense, which again, teams have been able to do, but keep an eye on Chris Jones to see if he's going to play or not. Last week, he was dealing with some soreness, and then he had an injury on top of that. And so this week, they've been taking it really easy on him. I kind of expect to put him on a pitch count. So Ashton Genty is probably your only Raider that I would even look at in this game. But yeah, I expect the defense to be playing as hard as they can and to be close. So that's all I got for the Kansas City game. Let's go ahead and go to Minnesota.
Sounds good. Philadelphia is expected to get a lot of their star defensive players back this week, and that's good news for the team. They really have been hurting with a lot of their defensive starters out. And Minnesota comes to play, right? So, um, we don't know what's happening at the quarterback position for Minnesota. There's been a lot of talk between certain players saying certain things about JJ coming back or being out for another week or whatever else. So we're not sure if it's going to be JJ McCarthy or Carson Wentz this week, but at the same time, their O line is not doing them any justice. So I'd almost want to leave JJ off for a little bit longer until they can get their O line underneath them. Um, and I guess sacrifice Carson Wentz. But, I feel like Minnesota really has nothing other than the Justin Jefferson train here. Jordan Mason is doing okay. Um he's leading the team in rushes, but Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Reichert, I wouldn't play anybody else on that team. Um from the Philadelphia side, Dallas Goedert had a fantastic game last week. He touched the ball so many times and seemed to do well. Like they just didn't have any defense for Goddard. So I expect them to spend a little bit more time with Goddard this week, um, just to see if they can get a little bit more production out of him. Interesting though, Devonta Smith has surpassed both AJ Brown and Dallas Goddard in receiving yards this year. So I definitely wouldn't sit Devonta Smith if you have him, because he is becoming a powerhouse out in Philadelphia.
Yeah, those yards after catch are exactly where he thrives, and he always
Yeah.
does. But I completely agree. I think this game is going to see if Minnesota is a true playoff team for this year, and so I think a lot rides on this game for Minnesota.
And Philadelphia is coming off of 2 losses, so
Yeah,
I
big,
I expect them to play harder, but at the same time, if their team is falling apart, the team is falling apart.
absolutely. Off to the Jets.
Carolina at the Jets.
Well, there is a lot of things happening in this game, and not necessarily good. Justin Fields is forgetting how to play quarterback. I think we saw him at the beginning of the year, that dual threat quarterback. We saw a lot of good. He was playing well. He was being smart. And the last couple weeks, he has just fallen off a cliff. He has gone back to his old ways, and that we saw in Chicago. That is why he got cut from the team. Brees Hall is going to run as much as he can, and Carolina, they last couple weeks they've been able to stop the run, but before that they weren't. So again, that's pretty much where I think the Jets are going to be just ground and pound, because Garrett Wilson had avoided, luckily, a very serious injury. He is day to day, but we will obviously see if he plays. If he doesn't, Alan Lazard will be in there for you. But for Carolina, they have a running back competition. Rico Dowdle has had over 400 scrimmage yards in the last 2 games. That is unheard of for a running back. And kind of starting to put Chuba Hubbard out of a job, even though the coaching staff says, nope, he's still our starter. We're going to let him split time. That's how it's going to be. But if you look at it, whoever has the hot hand, so far it's Rico Dowdle, is probably going to be the one guy who Carolina will keep, and they'll probably ship out the other guy before the trade deadline. Heck, McMillan, can you believe last week was the first time he scored a touchdown this season?
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
shocked. I was shocked to see that Ted had not scored a touchdown, and he was putting up the numbers that he was. So just always a start on him at this point. But that's all I really have to say. It's not going to do anything for the standings, but like I said, Rico Dowdle is going to be a person to look for in Carolina, Tech McMillan on Carolina, and then Brees Hall on the Jets. But other than that, that is pretty much all I would worry about this game. Let's go to Tennessee, Meg.
Sounds good. New England is at Tennessee this week. New England is at the top of the AFC East for the first time since 2021, and I'm sure they're loving it. Um, this is a team that has just fallen apart since they lost Tom Brady, and doesn't have anything that they have really been playing for. They've tried a couple of different things, and all of a sudden, this is this is the team that they want to play. You know, Stephon Diggs had a great game against the Bills. Didn't do much production wise last week, but they still were able to pull it out and to um, play well. So I I expect New England's going to win this game. I expect that Drake May is going to be the quarterback to watch for the next couple of weeks. Um, just having that chip on his shoulder and being able to say that he's the first in the AFC East. Um, from Tennessee's perspective, it's Tennessee. Tennessee's defense has allowed over 350 yards a game this year. So I just based off of the last couple of weeks watching New England, they're going to run all over that field with Tennessee, just with how movable that offense is. You know, whether it's Drake May or Stephon Diggs or um, any of the other players on the team. Um, I just I wouldn't say anything from Tennessee side. Yeah, that's all I got. New England, Drake May, 100%. Stephon Diggs, maybe.
Absolutely. I completely agree. All right, let's go ahead and go to Denver.
New Oh yeah, Denver. New York Giants at Denver.
It is.
Hello.
Yep. Power Field and Mile High. This is the first game in the afternoon slate at 4:05 Eastern. You have Jackson Dart facing Bo Nix. These teams are on paper kind of look evenly matched. I really wish we had Malik Neighbors because that would have been a really fun game to watch with the Giants versus Denver here. This is going to be a really good coaching matchup, I think. But unfortunately, when it comes down to fantasy, I'm not sure if there's anybody that I would absolutely say start. Absolutely is a lock starter. Evan Ingram, he has been making it up the charts on the Denver side and getting more targets since people are doubling Courtland Sutton. Marvin Mims, he's hot and cold as usual, and Troy Franklin, he's playing more, but he's not receiving more. So just something to watch out there. Scadaboo, again, we've talked about him a million times since he got that starting job. He's a hard nosed kid. He's going to run face first into the Denver defense, and he's probably going to hit a wall, but he will probably break through that wall once or twice. So it's not a bad start, but I think this game is just full of flex positions when we're coming down to it in the football. I think the starting lineups, but yeah, the New York and Denver teams, both of them, I don't think you're going to see anybody sell on trades here. So just go ahead and keep an eye on it. Luckily, this is one of the more healthier matchups that we have. Anything you want to talk about Denver before we go to the Chargers game?
Not really. It's supposed to be beautiful in Denver this weekend.
Nice.
That's all I know.
Beautiful. Hey, good weather means good game. So
Yeah, especially for that open top, and we're not gonna have very many of those left in
yeah,
Denver this year.
it's gonna start getting cold real soon.
Definitely. Colts and Chargers. Speaking of great weather, in a dome, I guess.
It looked
So
like a
Colts are
dome.
playing. It depends on your definition, right? But you're not the only one who has said it, so I've conceded. It's a dome, I guess.
I think it.
Anyway, Colts and Chargers. I expect this to be a great game. I have both the Colts and the Chargers at the tops of their divisions, and surprisingly, both the Colts and the Chargers are at the tops of their divisions. Um, the Chargers are dealing with a few minor injuries, but they have Lad McConkey, and he had a phenomenal game last week against the
About
Dolphins.
time.
I know. I've been waiting for all year for this kid to show, and he had to do it against the Dolphins. So I'm hoping that he got a little confidence last week and can push it forward against the Colts this week. But we'll see. Hopefully, he continues to do well because he's a great asset to the team. On the other side of the coin, the Colts really should just change their name now to Jonathan Taylor. It's become the Jonathan Taylor show. And that's it's working for them, right? The just handing it off to Jonathan Taylor over and over again. Um and also giving Daniel Jones a something to live for again, after his time in New York with the Giants. He just did not look like the player that he apparently is and can be coached and have the receivers for. So um I expect both Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor to do great in this game. Um, Chargers D is ranked 24 or 21st overall against the run, so it's going to make it even a better game for them. So I choose Colts this week, and I choose Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor, but maybe Lad McConkey because I like him and we'll do well again.
I completely agree with you there. I think the run game for Indianapolis is the big monster in this game, and the Chargers are going to be throwing the ball to keep up.
Yeah,
It's
and
fantastic.
hopefully it's a good game. I mean, we need them both to continue to do well.
Mhm. A lot of fun to watch when teams that you aren't expecting to do unexpected things.
Or the opposite,
Yes,
the bad side of that.
yes.
Welcome back. Let's get into those sleepers.
First off, we gotta talk about Jackson Dart, quarterback. Like we were saying throughout the matchups, I think he probably has a better matchup here than he's had in the past, and he's kind of coming into his own. So that's kind of where I'm feeling on Jackson Dart.
Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, better known as Bill, has been a standout performer. Really is feeling his oats there in Washington. Definitely somebody to look up to in the next couple of games and definitely in the coming years. Would I like the way he moves? I like how he always seems to get open. Um, and just definitely watch him. Jamar Chase, I was kind of worried about him and not really seeing his production levels go up the last couple of weeks, but last week, week 6, he did really, really well. Hoping he can stay on that trajectory and continue for Cincinnati. Even Ingram, if you've heard me last week, I was singing his praises. I think he's great for the Broncos. I think that as long as the Broncos keep ramping up his production, we're going to see great things. And the teams that they're playing aren't expecting them to use him since he's kind of forgotten about um, within the team. Jake Moody. I guess I have all these sleepers, Chris. Gracious. Jake Moody, if you watch the other Monday night game, um, he he was kind of expected to not be as good because of his time in San Francisco. He did have one miss, but he did also have the game-winning field goal. Also, it was a nasty game in Washington.
Washington.
It could go either way. Chicago has terrible weather too. But yes, Washington. So that could have added to it as well, but definitely looking to him to do well for the Bears in the future. Chris, I'll let you talk about the Packers.
Why? Thank you. Packers. It's all about matchups, guys. Packers are facing off against Cardinals, who are, as we've stated, injury ridden. And so, anytime you are facing a bunch of backups, you kind of want to face the starting defense that's doing really well. But that's not a trap, but these are going to be your trap for the next one. Caleb Williams, yes, he won last week. This week, probably not the week to start him. The New Orleans defense really has gotten super aggressive and I think that they will take advantage on Chicago. With that, I think the rest of them are yours, Meg.
Yeah, I have all of them this week apparently. Dylan A. Shane, we talked about in the matchups. Really, the only thing going well in Miami, and Miami is not going well. So if you have him and you don't have anybody else, definitely start him. But he's just a trap just because of the team he's on, unfortunately. Jerry Judy, same thing. Quarterback, not controversy necessarily, but just not sure from an injury perspective who we're going to get. So it makes the team not as productive. TJ Hawkinson is at the bottom of the pack as far as Minnesota receivers go. He's just not really showing that he's worth the targets, and the team isn't giving them to him, so he's trapped for us this week. I don't have them all. Those are
Okay.
yours too,
I
Chris.
was just gonna add a little bit on TJ Hawkinson with them facing Philadelphia. It's just a really hard tight end matchup, as well, and H-Hen's facing that Cleveland defense. So number one in the league for a reason. So just like we say, sometimes we would normally start them, but these are not the weeks to do it. Cam Little, we're expecting a bounce back, but he struggled really a lot last week, and now they're going overseas. He's only kicked overseas 1 year, facing against the Rams. It's going to be a hard-nosed battle, and I expect Jacksonville to probably be uber aggressive, and that can never go well for a kicker. And for the Chargers, they're facing the Indianapolis Colts, so you kind of have to say, hey, you're facing Jonathan Taylor. And if you're in a league that does a lot of return yards and does bonuses for return yards, that's the only time I would be worried about the Chargers, or I would be starting the Chargers, because that is going to be a high-scoring game no matter what. Let's get those locks done and wrap this thing up.
Are you gonna start for us?
Oh,
Or am
no,
I gonna
I was
start?
going to say, after you, you are in love with Drake May this week.
I'm not in love with him. He does play for the Patriots. But he did very well last week. I expect him to continue to do well. Um, Unless you want to talk about anybody else, Chris, I feel like we've covered most of them in our matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, group we didn't really cover, but again, it's a matchup league where New Orleans is facing Chicago. I don't think New Orleans is scoring a lot of touchdowns, but that offense will at least get into the green zone, so they'll give their opportunities for group to go ahead and give field goals. But that's all we got for the lock there. Let's wrap it up. Where can they find us, Meg?
Right here, right now, every week,
Amazing.
this time. Like, what's the question?
Just trying to set you up. It's nice.
My job is to say thank you for subscribing and liking us. We really appreciate you. If you haven't yet, shame on you. But please like and subscribe so that we can continue to do this and feel good about ourselves.
Have fun. Have fun
Yeah,
with us.
it's been a lot of fun so far.
Absolutely. Well, you guys know our phrase. Nobody circles the wagons like CTW.
Like TW.
Yep. We'll see
Have a
you
good
next
night.
week.